Why are we so tight-lipped with expressing to people how much we love and care and appreciate them? Why is that? Why is it that, we have to have a death or a sickness or something, a business that you love closing down for for us to be able to express real, raw human emotion? And I seriously, it made me cry. It just is so sad that it has to get to that point before we can just freely, it costs nothing, nothing to say kind things to each other. Why do we wait?
Welcome to Elevated Life, Real Wellness and Transformation Podcast, where we walk alongside the internally driven individual as they transform their life through wellness, movement, mindset, and personal responsibility. If that's you, you're in the right place. Let's jump in.
All right, guys, I want you to stop for a moment and listen to this. This is something that I want you to do because I believe that it will be beneficial for expanding your consciousness. All right. I want you to go on YouTube. I want you to type in Soft White Underbelly, go to the channel, and then I'd really like you to listen to Vinny's story about his near-death experience. We just watched it last night, and if you guys know me at all, I love listening to testimonies of near-death experiences because it flies in the face of burn, baby, burn. And why'd you look at me like that?
How so?
Well, like, you die, and if you don't keep these certain set of rules, then burn, baby, burn,
Okay,
right? So fear-based religion versus love-based source, creator of the planet, all of those things. It will intrigue you and probably inspire you to listen to other near-death experiences. So let's talk about it. Let's talk, I don't want to give certain things away with Vinny's story, but what did you think? What was your takeaway? Because I loved every second of it.
It's fascinating, just kind of the general takeaway, I guess. Because if you're not familiar with Soft White Underbelly, it's essentially just an interview. And the whole video is just the camera on the person that's talking.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while you hear the guy who makes it, he asks a couple questions, but it's not like every few minutes asking questions. This one was 56 minutes or something.
Yeah.
And it's like 54 minutes of Vinny talking.
Yeah.
And, there's just a background, like a green screen thing, but it's just color.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And it is so intriguing. I mean, that hour went by so fast.
It did.
It's just a testament to a good story
Mm-hmm.
will captivate you. We don't need flashing lights and bells and whistles and everything. So just on the surface, not even talking about his specific story, just that is it tells you a lot about what you need to know about Soft White Underbelly. That's the kind of stuff that he's producing.
And I am a bit obsessed with Soft White Underbelly because as, humans do such a good job, unfortunately, not all of us, but of judging people, right? Judging the homeless, judging the drug addicted, judging the whatever. And when you can sit and listen to their stories that got them to the point that they are currently, I mean, it's just like, well, fuck, no shit.
Yeah.
Your compassion level really grows because people, we've said this before, they don't just wake up and they're like, oh, today I want to be a heroin addict and, give my kids away. And it's so touching and so real and raw to me that it just, and sometimes I can't look at it, based on whatever story is being told because it's just so heartbreaking. It's just so heartbreaking, but it really can help you understand just humanity.
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to get into this guy's story a little bit?
Yeah, let's just talk briefly about it.
So the high level, super high level, him and his buddy were young, mid-20s, bodybuilders, got some weird supplement from Thailand,
Yeah.
because it was recovery stuff, whatever, and took it and instantly started feeling sick.
Yeah.
So they thought they needed food, went down to the Dairy Queen, just right there local, and barely made it in. He made it into the bathroom and got the door locked. His buddy just made it to the first booth, started throwing up, passed out, whatever. So the medics got him, the buddy. This guy died in the bathroom with the door locked.
Yeah.
And he was in there about an hour before somebody was complaining that the door had been locked for an hour. So they unlocked it, went in there, found it. So all this time he's talking about what he can see and what he feels, and he can see the whole thing playing out, and he doesn't realize really that it's him in the bathroom, but he can see everything that's going on. He can see the medics that come, and he can hear things that normally just 3D humans don't hear.
Right.
And so it's the first part of it is just him retelling this experience.
Yeah, and the really just fascinating part about listening to NDEs is when they go into the afterlife, the wave of love and feeling like they're home. Like, oh my goodness, I'm finally home. And I don't know about you guys, but I always feel like a stranger on this planet, like constantly. Like, this is not where I originated from. I have felt that way since I was a child. And so the curious part is that everyone gets a life review, right? And their guides take them on this life review. And what I love about the life review is it's not just, the mistakes that you have made, because there's compassion in those mistakes. It's not this, you did this, blah, blah. There's compassion in that, but it's also like, the good things that you did, and then you get to hear and witness it from the other people that experienced your goodness, but also when you were awful to someone, because we're all human and we have those human moments, you can see the ripple effect of your behavior. You can hear the other people's thoughts that experienced that. And that to me is just like beyond fascinating, because you don't understand what how your behavior affects other people, even if it's just you walk by someone and you smile at them on the road and you say, you know what, I really like your shoes, they look great today. So you get this life review where all these little things, you can hear what the other people are thinking. Go ahead.
That was the most fascinating part to me.
Yeah.
Is the when he was talking about it, and it's not unique. You hear it in a lot of
every
NDEs,
single NDE
talking about there were negatives and positives that he didn't even realize.
Yeah.
And then got to experience those from the other people's perspective. Because, I get it. Like, I was a dick to somebody and then I saw, oh, yeah, that made him feel bad. Okay, whatever. But the times like you're talking about where you have an interaction that you don't even think about.
Yeah.
And how it impacts somebody else. And then being able to see that from their perspective.
Yeah.
Is incredible.
And the joy that it brings them. And then, like I said earlier, that ripple effect. So then what do? They're feeling good and lovely. And so then they do that to someone else. And then that ripple effect just goes on and on and on. I wish that humanity I wish all of us could really understand this, because I had this big epiphany.
Real quick before we get into that,
yeah,
because that's gonna just to promote this a little bit more without giving any spoilers.
Yeah,
there were a couple twists in his story that were just
jaw dropping.
Yeah, Like, I mean, when we were talking about it after we got done watching it, like, can you imagine that happening?
Hey friends, if you're getting something out of this, connect with us on our social media platforms. We're at CJ Elevated Life _ on Instagram and TikTok, and CJ Elevated Life on Facebook and X. We're answering DMs, sharing daily content, and building community with people ready for real transformation. For now, hit subscribe wherever you're listening, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. We drop 2 new episodes every week. And if this episode resonates, share it. That's how we reach more people who are ready for change. You can also find everything at cjelevatedlife.com. All right, let's keep going.
Yeah.
Stuff when he came back.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
it turns out, I don't think this is a spoiler, he was brain dead for 3 days.
Yeah.
And then, came back, whatever. And then when he was talking about after coming back and some things that happened that are just like
it gives me chicken skin.
I was
like,
just gonna
right?
say, yeah.
It's just like the most amazing thing. And it really, when you dig deep into NDEs, you understand that source is not, a guy in the sky that's just ready to zap you.
Right.
You did this bad. Oh, you suck. This is your very first human experience that you're aware of. And you have to do everything perfect and fear-based garbage. That is not who the creator is. It just isn't. And so when you hear story after story after story, it's just like, okay, this is really painting a clear picture, because so many live in that fear, anxiety of dying. And it was so interesting to me with Vinny, because he's like, I just want to go back. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm ready to go back. Mm-hmm. He's like, I'm not towards the end. I'm not doing anything to like off myself, but man, like I have zero fear of the afterlife. And I just also think that it would be good for humanity to study that, NDEs, so that you can understand how your behavior affects other people. Just these small, seemingly nothing interactions, how they really can change the world.
So on that note, let's talk about your epiphany.
Yeah, I had this epiphany last week. So we're selling the gym, we're in talks with some people, whatever. And we had this meeting, and it was expressed how much the gym is loved. And it's just really sad that there's a potential of it just closing doors. And it really got me thinking, and just some other events that have happened in this past year. Why are we so tight-lipped with expressing to people how much we love and care and appreciate them? Why is that? Why is it that, we have to have a death or a sickness or something, a business that you love closing down, for us to be able to express real, raw human emotion? And it made me cry, like, because it just is so sad that it has to get to that point before we can just freely, it costs nothing to say kind things to each other. Why do we wait? I'm asking you. Do you know, Beard of Knowledge?
That's a great
question.
Why
we wait? Why do we do that?
And so before I give my thoughts on that, the added part of that that's fascinating to me is how often when people talk about those things, at a funeral or at something closing, one of the things that you hear so much is exactly what you're saying. Yeah. Like, why didn't we honor this person when they were alive? Yeah. When they could have heard it and been part of it? Why don't we do that? Why? And then never happens. Or rarely. Sometimes it does, but it never does. And I think it's, I really think it is a wiring in us, and I don't know where it comes from. I used to think it was just our caveman animal instincts. I don't know anymore. I don't know. Shit about shit is what I do know.
Yeah, the
But
more you start to know,
yeah,
the more you don't know.
yeah. But so wherever it comes from, I think we're wired to see danger / negative, because it's that kind of lives in the same world. And so
And it's also being fed to us all the time. Sorry, I just wanted to add that in.
Yeah. So we're wired to see the dangers, so if you go back to like caveman time, and I read or something about, just as a quick aside, there's a kindergarten, I think it was in Japan, that all the kids at nap time, they sleep outside, and if there's no bird sounds, they'll pipe in bird sounds, because bird sounds are so calming to humans.
I agree.
Because scientifically, one thing they indicate, if you go back, like what I'm talking about, if the birds are chirping, everything's probably okay. When the birds stop, something's going on.
Well, can't you? I mean, this is just triggering a conversation that we've had, because we love to sit out and look at the birds and listen to the birds. And if it's summer, spring, or bird time, even in winter for us, we have birds in the winter.
Yeah.
We're like, why are the birds quiet? Yeah. What's going on?
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
We've had that conversation. So it's interesting. I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
That's great.
Go ahead.
So then if you extrapolate that out into what we're talking about here, it's kind of the same wiring of, I'm not recognizing in my subconscious or in my wiring, I'm not recognizing positive, because it's just good. I don't need to react to it, because there's no danger in it. There's no, I don't have to fend off a saber-toothed tiger, or
so I don't need to feed
whatever.
the good. It's just existing.
It's just there, and I just get to be in it. And then it becomes so easy to just take it for granted or not even think about it. But then when danger, when negativity, somebody dying or getting sick, a business closing, somebody even leaving, moving away, whatever, that triggers now I'm thinking about this.
Right.
And so then you go, you start reflecting like, oh, there was so much good here, but I didn't really, like, just as an example, for any of the people that we're talking about with the gym, if we asked them or somebody asked them about the gym, they would have said the same things. We love it. It's a great community.
And they've done that.
And but it's just not at the forefront, because, even that asking then triggers that thought.
Sure.
We don't have the capacity with everything going on to hold positive thoughts in the front of our mind, because we don't need to, physiologically, I guess, or, there's no threat with positivity.
Well, I would just want to inspire people to start to rewire your brain and look for the good and speak it out. If you be observant, can we start being just like self-aware and observant of the humans and the situations around us, and being able to speak, to infuse that with more positivity or kindness, right? I mean, how hard is it if you're passing someone on the street to give them a smile?
Yeah.
How hard is that? Or just to say, your hair looks nice today. I like your dress. Whatever. Like, the smallest acts have the hugest impact. And so, anyway, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it reminds me of, we've done several podcasts, but in the way back when we first started talking about tools for, when you're elevating and, raising your frequency and vibration and everything, and gratitude, and how critical gratitude is, and how it can be hard if you're, if you haven't lived in gratitude for a long time, it can be overwhelming almost. But just find one thing. Find one little thing, or it could be a big thing, but just find one thing in a day that you're grateful for, and live in that for even just a couple seconds.
Yeah.
And then once you start, that's how you start building that muscle.
That's the one snowflake.
And then, exactly.
That builds into a ball.
Yep. So then this is the exact same thing. If you smile at one person, or hold the door open, or, whatever those, find one little thing, little, quote unquote, that you can do, then you start building that habit, and then it's the snowflake, and all of a sudden it's lots of snowflakes, and then you're building that momentum.
And then it's a ripple effect to humanity. It's so easy right now to get, guys, this world we live on is just fucked up. Okay, on all levels. It is so exhausting to live here and also like participate in the exhaustion. We already know that every single thing is corrupted. It is all corrupted. And you can let that consume you. Or if you want to be the change, right? Everyone talks about being the change, and then they're like, oh, that guy, he's the next leader. Oh, that person, oh, they get to do that. Them. If you start just being the change for yourself, then that ripple effect can absolutely be the massive change. And I'm just going to circle back to the NDE, because every NDE story that I've heard, and I'm obsessed with them all, is the good being the massive ripple effect that literally can change humanity. So why aren't we doing it? Why? Because we're not aware. We're really in our own world, thinking about our own shit, main character syndrome. And we all have moments, right? I'm not like pointing the finger of going, you're a main character person. We all are.
Yeah.
But just becoming more aware of how you can be a blessing in that day. And if you don't know how, ask Spirit. Like, Spirit, give me an opportunity to be a blessing to someone, to say something nice to someone, to hold the door, to help someone with groceries, just to smile. If you're an introvert, just a smile. Like, that might be a big thing, right? Just lift your head up and smile at someone else instead of the constant chatter of, oh, did you see blah, blah, blah? Oh, did you see what Donald Trump's doing? Did you see what, whoever, whatever that looks like? You're also feeding into that. So let's shift our gaze and start feeding into the positive. And yes, it starts with gratitude. That's just what it is.
One of the other things, and again, I don't think this is really a spoiler, but it really hit home with me. One of the things that Vinny said when he was dead, when he was experiencing his...
It's interesting how he called himself the body.
Yeah.
That was so curious.
We didn't even talk about that.
I know, we didn't. Anyway, that just triggered. I was like, yeah,
that was fascinating too. But he said one of the things that his guide told him was, humans get so caught up in thinking I'll just say this. He said, this is the Earth is a classroom, not a courtroom.
Oh, we didn't even talk about that.
Yeah.
Say that again. Yeah. Louder for the people in the back.
Earth is a classroom, not a courtroom.
Yeah.
And, so that if you go back to the idea that we're talking about here, plus it just touches on so many other things. Like, we're all here to learn. We're not here to be judged. We're not here to defend ourselves. We're not here to make a point.
Yeah.
We're here to learn.
Totally.
And help each other learn.
Yeah.
And that's just one way to do that, to learn love. Smile at somebody.
Right.
Hey, quick pause. If this episode is hitting you and you're ready for real tools, here's what we built.
Head on over to cjellevatedlife.com, pick up the Rebuilt Method for Men or the Rebuilt Method for Women, just $67 each. We also created the Parasite Detox Blueprint at $37. And this is actually the exact protocol we use ourselves.
And while you're there, sign up for the newsletter. You'll get the weekly action steps and new tools we've tested ourselves. Let's get back to the episode.
It's hard because I don't care what religion you have ever been a part of, except for maybe Buddhism there's a couple of them.
Sure.
You are taught that this earth is a courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
and judge, jury, and burn, baby, burn. So when you have someone have an NDE and their spirit guide is walking them through in love and compassion and saying it's not a courtroom, it is a classroom, I would think that the average Joe who started researching this, the weight of, oh my gosh, fear-based, I can't move. But then as I was thinking about it, you know, the God of the Old Testament, very much a judge.
Yeah.
Very much, I'm jealous, but you better not fucking be jealous. I'm going to kill people, but you better not kill people. Right? So it's just like, now I understand, the reason why people who just are crippled by religiosity are so judgmental.
Yeah.
Because that God is so judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what it is. And it was like this massive epiphany this morning where I was like, oh, well, of course the followers beget the leader, right? Even though Yeshua, separate from the God of the Bible, in my opinion, says the exact opposite. So that the reason why I believe it's separate is because Scripture says God doesn't change, right? The same yesterday, today, and forever. So how can it be judge, jury, executionist, jealous, all of those things, and then all of a sudden it shifts, right? There's no consistency in that, and that's confusing to people. So anyway,
yeah, and it helps. It helps put people in that are, especially that are followers, especially of the Old Testament God in some form. It helps shed light on really what their mindset is and the driver of so many of their behaviors. Because if you're, well, just as a quick aside, I don't think we talked about on here the other documentary that we watched.
I was going to mention it.
Okay.
Bring it up. We've been documenting it up.
Yeah. So it was, just briefly, it was a documentary about the fundamentalist Latter-day Saints. And essentially it started when Warren Jeffs, who was their leader, went to prison. And then, there were a lot of different sects within the
sex and sex.
Yeah, well, both, yeah. X and T.
Yeah.
Within the FDLS community, and this is just one guy that was like, "Oh, hey, I'm the prophet now."
Well, it was called The Prophet on Netflix, right? The
false prophet.
Okay.
But prophet was in the title for sure.
Yeah.
But so it was, so this new guy, and then these women, it's very, if you've done any research or watched anything about FDLS communities, it followed along the same lines.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything like earth shattering in that, but it was just such another example of, this is just how so many of them were raised from infancy to, this is what you believe, and if you don't believe this, you're going to burn in hell for eternity.
Yeah.
And so just like what we're talking about, this is what reminded me with the judgmental God. If that's just the only thing you've ever known, how can you not think judgment is appropriate?
Totally.
Because that's my dude is telling me.
Totally.
Because this is what he's showing me.
Yeah.
And so it really helps me to put things into perspective of, oh no, this is why these people, this group is like this. This is why they're judgmental and everything, because that's all they've ever known.
Yeah, and that's their God, and also that's their prophet, right? I mean, the fear is just like, at the end of the documentary, they interviewed some girls that had gone to prison and kind of, turned away from all that. And they, first of all, they were like, prison set me free.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was bonkers to me. I'm like, prison set me free. But then also, I was so scared to burn in hell forever and ever and ever and ever. That is scary. People will do things to not do that, right?
Yeah.
Who's like, I want to sign up for that, right? It's just, I mean, we watched another documentary about TikTok dancers who got sucked into a cult too. Same situation.
Exact
You're going to
same.
burn in hell forever.
Yep.
It's a perfect way. If you don't give me money, you're going to burn in hell forever.
Yeah.
And because they're like, and these were not charismatic cult leaders.
No.
You know, I was like, well, hell, you could totally just be a complete derelict and have a cult, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Oh, did I just say that? Okay. So anyway, it's just curious how when you infuse fear, you can have the population do anything.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were not given a spirit of fear, right? But of peace and a sound mind. That is a scripture. So wait a second. Were we given a spirit of fear or were we not? Like, there's some stuff going on there. So anyway, it's been really curious to watch these documentaries. And again, not out of judgment, because, you know, if you are born and raised in a situation like this, you don't know any different. You don't. And if you're told you're going to burn forever, you might do anything to not burn forever. But then there's this flip side called NDEs, where people have gone to the other side and they've come back and they have messages, and we can learn from them and learn love and compassion. And that, again, Earth is a school. It's not a courtroom. Doesn't that just make you exhale? You know what I mean?
I think since we went back to the NDEs, I think another fascinating component of them, and not as much this guy, because he had some religious background before he had it, but the ones that are truly fascinating to me are the ones that, you know, I was an atheist, or I was just so agnostic about everything. I didn't, you know, because atheism and agnosticism are different, but I didn't know, I didn't care.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, whatever. And then they had this experience. So it's not like it was programmed into them, you know, that some guide or angel was going to come and like, I don't believe in any of that shit.
Yeah.
I don't even know about it. You know, I'm not whatever. I'm as far away from that as possible. And then all of a sudden, all this stuff happened that they couldn't explain, but they had details.
Yeah. And the other curious thing is that in 0 of the NDEs, do they die and go straight to hell? Or, well, that I've watched.
Right.
I know there are hell ones, and I am going to start doing that. But in 0 of them also, especially with the atheists, there's never, you have to say this prayer and accept Jesus into your heart or you're going to burn.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it is? It's, look at how you're treating people. Look at, you know, love people, have compassion and understanding. Look at what happens when you judge people. And that is so fascinating to me. Like, nope, there's no thing that's like, say this prayer and then you get to get your McDonald's hamburger and be safe forever.
I'll say something that you generally say on this. It's almost like that's what Yeshua was trying to, or not trying to say, what he was saying.
Yeah.
But that message was
Convoluted.
Corrupted.
By Paul, who everybody holds his teachings before who they say is the Messiah. Like, it's really interesting. So anyway, we just wanted to take this time on this podcast to talk about the documentaries and the NDE and just inspire you to don't wait to be kind. Don't try not to do that. Now, you're human. Give yourself grace, right? Everyone has moments. But if we really want to start a revolution and we really want a different planet, it starts with being kind to yourself and then to others, because you can't be to others what you're not to yourself. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you guys have a lovely day.
And we'll talk to you soon.